But yeah, no, eventually my husband and I decided to get into multifamily because we wanted to scale. So when we say multifamily, what we mean is really like those apartment complexes, those commercial size assets. And it's not just apartment complexes. That's kind of what we focus on at the moment. But it can be RV parks, it can be storage units, anything that is kind of like in that space and industry.
Came here in 2007, right in the middle of the crazy crisis. If your heart is not into it, do not do it. That's what I always tell them.
If you're making around 70K, look to be able to qualify for a home somewhere around 250, 275 in that bracket.
Onions and juices and all that, and put some lemon and onion and you make him drink it, right?
And Alex, all my listings need a video. All of them.
And welcome back, friends and family. Thank you so much for joining us again today to this new episode. Let's keep it real now. I am your favorite host, Danielle Bilumbu with DBK Real Estate. And I'm here with my bestie,
Boo Jabby with AMP London. How y'all doing? Happy New Year.
All right, so we have something special because 2024 was a very challenging year. And it's still challenging today, right, because of what's going on in the economy. We thought maybe some of you would like to make some money on the side on top of your full-time job. So we have invited a specialist in a multifamily business. And I'm here with Miss Linda Holtz.
Hi, how you guys doing? Thank you so much for inviting me.
Great. And she owns a business, Married to Medicine, a.k.a. I'm doing this business with my hubby.
That is correct.
And then she's going to go ahead and talk to us about what does that mean to work in multifamily business, syndication, and so on, and how you can start, and how easy, how difficult, the good, the bad, and the ugly, right?
That's right. That's exactly what I'm here for.
Great. So go ahead, talk to us first before we start. Talk to us a little bit about about you. What's your background, right? I'm too much into myself, right? Anyway, so talk to us about you and tell us what's your background, where you come from, and how you got into this business.
Yeah, for sure. Well, again, thank you guys so much for having me over. My name is Linda. Originally, I'm from the beautiful country of France, as your gorgeous host here.
French connection, y'all.
And I actually got here in America in 2012, so it's been a minute now. I was supposed to come for 6 weeks. Still here. America cannot get rid of me.
That giving me some deja vu, right?
Yes. And so at the time, my first couple of years here, I worked in sales. So I moved a lot. I lived in about 6 different states. Eventually kind of got tired of it and decided to find something new. So that's how I landed in property management. And I ended up doing that for the next 10 years after that. And that was really my introduction to real estate. I was a condo manager, so I managed homeowners associations and condominium buildings. I did that in Chicago for a long time, and then eventually in Houston here. And it was amazing to manage properties and be in the day-to-day with the residents. But eventually I figured if I can do it for them, might as well do it for me. So that's how I started investing.
So this is great. So how did you start? Just first of all, before we start that, what is syndication, aka multifamily?
Yes.
And what's considered multifamily? Because we do different numbers, right? Unit. So you break it down for us.
Yes, and I'm glad you asked that question because actually my first investment property was a multifamily, but it was a triplex. So you guys work in real estate, you know that means it was a residential investment. Mm-hmm. After that, I moved on with a couple of single family homes. But when I got into actually starting my business of multifamily investments, that's when I started going after commercial assets. So anything that is, I guess, even 2 units, right? Like a duplex or more is technically multifamily. But right now, what we'll go after is things that are at least 60 units and up so that it's big enough to warrant its own property management team.
Pretty much apartment complex.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm. And then this type of multifamily, so for duplex, triplex, and fourplex, you can have a regular single family type of loan, right? You can have an investment. FHA can do it too. FHA can do it. Mm-hmm. Conventional can do it. You can live in one unit and then rent the other one. But anything above 4, that's where Linda comes in.
Yes, exactly. And actually, my very first triplex was with an FHA loan.
Okay.
So I know all about those
Okay.
for sure. But yeah, no, eventually my husband and I decided to get into multifamily because we wanted to scale. So when we say multifamily, what we mean is really like those apartment complexes, those commercial size assets. And it's not just apartment complexes. That's kind of what we focus on at the moment. But it can be RV parks, it can be storage units, anything that is kind of like in that space and industry.
Okay. So pretty much you and your husband started Hijack It, right? You got a regular FHA.
Yeah,
You rented out.
that's right. That's
Did you
right.
sell it or you kept it?
No, we sold it when we moved to Houston.
Okay.
Yeah, and it was definitely one of those moments of like you make your money when you buy, because when we bought it and we moved in, we had our two renters, right? It was 3 units, so we lived in the middle. We had people above and under us, but we bought it in 2020, January actually. It was just the anniversary. And then we sold it in 2021 when we moved here. So it was like we bought in December in Chicago, sold it in the middle of spring 2021 when interest rates were dropping. So it was like the perfect property basically.
Yeah, so you bought it at the right time and sold it at the right time.
Exactly.
What's the difference between syndication versus landlord?
Yes. So that property, we lived there. We were the landlords. We were the ones dealing with the tenants, managing all the repairs. When we first bought it, we did an FHA to a 3K loan. So there was a portion of the loan that was going towards bigger renovations. So we were in charge of managing that. Obviously, at the time, my job was to be a property manager. So I knew how to handle all that. But to me, that's what landlording is. It's like every time there's a repair, it's on you to get 2 or 3 bids, analyze the bid, make a decision, pay for it. It's on you to find your renters, manage them day to day, respond to them when they need anything. And then, of course, unfortunately, if they happen to not pay, go after them. Now, of course, you can delegate all of those tasks, right? You can have a property manager, you can have a leasing agent, but at the end of the day, you're the one who's in charge and responsible for those things. To me, the biggest difference with multifamily investment is that it's a team sport.
Yeah.
So now you're sharing all the responsibilities. Now, of course, you share the profits too.
Yeah.
But that's what I love about it is that whenever there's any kind of like win or obstacle, let's call it that, or challenge, everyone is in on it together. And it's not just you who loses sleep at night because you're like, it's just me. All of a sudden I have this big repair. What am I going to do with it? Or it's just me every time the tenant calls me on a Sunday night, or if I'm on vacation, there's no one else to answer the phone. No, with multifamily, we buy assets that are big enough to have a property manager, number one. And then even to manage that manager, it's a team of us. And that's what I love about it.
Okay, so I just want to make sure everybody really understand that. So when you do syndication, you pretty much just invest your money into something that is already existing.
Correct.
Or you can invest money into something that will be, or how do you start in that point?
Correct. So you can do both. And it's funny because right now we're actually in the middle of 2 deals, and one is an existing apartment complex that was built, I think, in the 80s. And then the other one is a new build. So it really doesn't matter what your focus on, what your niche is. For us, what we prefer to do is value adds. So we like to buy something that's either a C property, turn it into a B, or a B property that we can kind of like upgrade to B plus, or maybe even A minus. And so by doing those value adds, we force the appreciation, and then we get more cash flow, more like splitting the equity, all of that.
For those that don't understand really what's value add, would you break it down for them?
Yeah, so it can be as simple as, for example, you increasing the rents, right?
Yeah.
Like the rents are on the market by $100 or $200. You increase that. That's more money in the building's pockets, which eventually we share the profits, right? But just by doing that, you added value to the building. Because the thing with multifamily to think about, and commercial real estate in general, is that it's a lot more based on the numbers than residential assets.
Correct.
And so each deal, you have to see it as its own kind of mini company with a budget, and like you have to make sure that you manage it correctly to make money for your investors. And so every time you do anything that can add value, that's more bottom line money to provide to the investors. So if you can add amenities, which is a great one because now that's also things that renters can enjoy as well. If you can reduce expenses, if you realize that there are things that are not being ran efficiently, If you can do things like a little bigger projects, like maybe it needs a new roof or new paint jobs, when you're talking 6, 8, 10 different buildings, it can become pretty big. So all of those are value adds.
So when you're getting started with it, as far as the investors are concerned, are there multi-investors that y'all are dealing with, or how does that work?
Yes. So there are two types of investors. There are the active investors. They're typically called operators, co-sponsors, general partners, and they're the ones who are managing the manager. So they're the ones who find the deal, find a property management company to take care of it, decide what the value add business plan is going to be, or business plan in general, by the way. They're the ones who stay on top of the investment for the duration of the hold period, and then they're the ones who sell. And then you have the passive investors. And typically the passive investors just bring their funds into the deal, and they're completely passive. They sit back and relax and wait for their return.
So you can pretty much be both, right? You can be the one and you go find the deal and do all that. Now raise money, convince uncle, sister, brother, coworker, your dog to join in the business with you, you know?
I haven't convinced my dog yet.
We never know. Some dogs are rich, right? When they have inheritance. But anyway, or you can just be the person who just want to chill. You have a full-time job. You don't have time for that. And you just find somebody who's already do that and you just put your money down.
Yes, but I will say... it's called passive investors, passive investment, but you still have to do a little bit of work. I think that's one of the biggest misrepresentation is you still have to decide, okay, who do I trust to give my money to? Exactly. Do I agree with the business plan? Do I agree with the building that we're buying? All of that. It's mostly upfront because once you've placed your funds, you just wait for it. But I do think it's important to remind everyone of that.
And what's usually the timeline if you invest? Let's say I just want to do the passive part. Like I do my due diligence, I check on you and your business and see what you're doing, and I'm okay with that. So how long, what's the average rate of return and how long before I pull all my money out of the deal?
Yes. So to answer the question about the total duration, it's typically 3 to 5 years.
Okay.
I've seen deals that are a little bit longer, like 7, 10 years even. Most of the time, from what I understand, I haven't done one of those, is for tax purposes. But 3 to 5 is pretty general. Like probably 90% of the deals you're going to find out there are within that range. I would even say that 5 years is the general rule of thumb. Now, in terms of average returns, all of it is projections. I always tell people just be careful, make sure that you understand, make sure that you're not going to need your money any earlier than that. Make sure that it's money that you can lose, God forbid, if the market changes or anything like this. Yeah. That being said, though, typically you double your money every 5 years. If you invest $50K today, which most of the time is the minimum investment that operators ask for, if you invest that today in 2030, you'll get 100 back. Now, some of it will come throughout. Some of it will be cash flow that you collect along the way. But the biggest chunk will be at the time of selling the asset, the equity, your share of the equity from selling.
They always sell at the end, or sometimes they refinance and give you money? How does that happen?
Yes, sometimes operators will refinance the investors out. Or not necessarily out, but they'll refinance, get some money back. If it's enough to get all the investors out, for the operators, it becomes a legacy property. Because now you no longer have money tied in. Like all the future cash flow is infinite returns. Exactly.
So that's pretty good. If you can, that can be a good way for you, for example, to purchase, to find an apartment complex, let's say 60 or 100 unit, for example. You raise the fund with friends and family, maybe that 20 or the 30% you need in order for you to get a loan. And then a few years down the line, you refinance the whole thing. You pay your investor, you keep that, you're 100% owner, and you chill under the sun.
That's it. If you can do that a couple of times, you don't need that many. And that's another great part of multifamily is the scalability. You don't need 100 single-family homes to make the same amount of infinite returns as you do if you only have maybe 10 apartment buildings. Or I'm just throwing out numbers. You see what I mean?
What's considered a good return on your investment on the cash flow part?
So on the cash flow, the cash on cash all throughout, typically you'll see a good one from 7 to 9%.
Okay.
Yeah.
As good as the investing on the stock market, pretty much.
Yes. Now the IRR, the internal rate of return, that's the time value of your money.
Okay.
It's how quickly did you make a profit on your money? If that is like 20 plus, that's a good IR.
20 plus. What do you mean?
20%.
So like, let me give you the example of my first passive investment that I did. I think it's 23% IR. So, and it's a 5-year hold. So when it's all said and done, when they sell, I think in 2029 is when it should exit. Overall, every year I would have made the equivalent of, on average, 23% of my money back.
Okay.
Yeah. But that's like when it's all said and done, you got your money back, you got your equity share, all of that. The cash flow along the way is like 7 to 9%.
Okay.
And what are the different roles that we need to be aware, people needs to know, and the rules behind that? How does that work?
Absolutely. So if you're passive, you're passive. There's pretty much only one role on that side. If you're active, there's different ways that you can get involved. Obviously, you can be the person who finds the deal. So you can be on the acquisition side, which usually goes alongside the underwriting side. So you have to have somebody on your team who's looking at the number, who understands how to do market research, who has a good understanding of, okay, in that zip code or in that state or in that city, this is the typical tax rate, or this is the typical that like price per unit that we can pay on insurance or on repairs. And so they know how to look at all those numbers, how to look at, okay, this specific property, I think we should repaint the inside in half the unit and maybe add washer dryers. That's the return we're going to see on that investment. Doing all of that, that's the underwriter's role. And then at the end decide, okay, based on everything that I look at, that's what the returns I think we're going to get. And then the team decides, is that good enough to actually make an offer or not? Then, if it is good enough to make an offer, there are people who are focused on investor relations. It's like, okay, now we know that we're going to go after that deal. We need passive investors to bring funds so that we can close. And then the last role would be managing. So like managing the deal, that's called asset management. So now you're in charge of managing the property management company.
That's nice.
And making sure, like, not just the property management company, but also making sure that you stay on track with your business plan and all of that until exit.
And how long will it take between the time that you find the deal and you put all the finances together and close on it? What's the typical, the average time?
It can vary. I mean, we got on the deal recently. I think they started doing due diligence, which is a very important part, probably around September, October. And we're about to close now in January. I would say anywhere from 45 days, maybe 30 if you like have all your ducks in a row, to 60 to 90 days. Yeah. Now, one thing you ask about the rules. So we do operate under the SEC, the Security Exchange Commission.
Okay.
So you know what? I said earlier there's only one type of passive, but I'll take that back. Because there's actually two types. You can either be a sophisticated investor or an accredited investor. And so the rules that the SEC gives us are based on who you can talk to or not talk to depending on your deal. And so there are deals where you can only talk to accredited investors, and then there are deals where you can talk to both.
Okay. So if I'm a newbie,
Yes.
I'm new, I want to get into investing in multifamily, what tips would you give us to try to get started?
So my first tip would be passive first.
Okay.
Like, I've done it eventually. But when I first got into multifamily, I thought, okay, I have a very extensive background in property management. I'm just going to be on the asset management side of a deal.
Okay.
But one thing that I'll go back to when I said it's a business, teams like successful operators, they have teams already. So they're able to have people like, brokers that they like, lenders that they like, property management companies that they like. Same thing within their teams. They already probably have an underwriter or have an asset manager. And so with my husband, we realized pretty early on, okay, maybe somebody's not going to give us a $10 million building to manage tomorrow, even though we have 10 years of property management experience, 5 years of investment experience, but it's not the same when when it's a different asset class. Now, eventually, we did do our first passive investment, and I think it's very important because now that showed us, okay, this is how it works. This is all the paperwork. This is what, when we talk to our investors, we can tell them, been there, done that. I know exactly the process. I know what you're going to sign, what the page looks like, what, the website looks like. I know the different ways you can invest, because another big misrepresentation is that people think you need cash. Not necessarily. My first investment, I invested from a life insurance policy. So it's all those different things.
Could you break that down?
Yes, of course.
I may have a few policies I can use there.
So the long story short is that in 2017...
I want to hear the long story.
Oh, you want to hear? Okay.
So I can learn.
So in 2017, I was in Chicago. Hadn't met my husband yet. I was pretty healthy, hopefully. So a single healthy girl, and I was exposed to IULs. I think it's Index Universal Life. It's in a life insurance policy, basically. And so the reason why I decided to get one, even though I was like in my 20s, not married, no children, is because I discovered compound interest. I was exposed to the idea that, hey, if you park your money somewhere every month and you kind of forget about it, almost like a retirement account. But the difference is if you park it in an IUL, every month your interest is going to compound, and every month it starts compounding on like the new number. So like if you start with 100, month 2, you get interest on 100. But then now on month 3, you get interest on 100 plus the month 2's interest, and et cetera, et cetera. And so I was like, okay, sounds great. I'm just going to open it. Did that and forgot about it. Fast forward to about a year ago, realized, oh my gosh, I can actually invest from that. And now I had been putting money in like regularly, right? And my financial planner was actually the one telling me, not only you can do that, but it's very quick. If you have an app, which I did for your custodian or whatever it is for life insurance, you go on the app and you put request funds, how much you want, and they'll send you a check. And I was actually able to put in my bank account. So in 3 days, the money was in my account. Oh, wow. And I was like, here we go. We're going to become passive investors.
So that's pretty much this is the money coming from your saving side of your life insurance policies that you accumulate pretty much.
Correct. Okay. Correct. So, and I'm glad you mentioned that, because I think my life insurance, like the number, like death number, whatever it's called, is probably a little above $500,000. Well, they were not going to let me borrow
of course
the whole thing, right? They were going to let me borrow out of what I already saved up. But what I love about it is that they let me borrow it at a 4% loan. Mm-hmm. I put my money in a deal that's going to give me 23%, like I said earlier. So now I'm becoming my own bank. Now I'm like having the gap that banks do when they tell you, hey, if you give your money to us, we'll invest it, we make the difference. That's what I'm creating for myself.
This is so great. For anybody thinking about doing something like that, make sure to reach out to us, because we do have great insurance agent that can help you set this up for you.
Yes.
Is there a lot of mentorship, like with newbies that are coming in, like somebody that they can like shadow? Is that something that's in the actual industry?
Yes, and that's actually how I got started. Okay. The first time we got into multifamily, and the funny thing is, life has a way of coming back at you, because I used to work for another but more like a VA situation for another investor. So I had been exposed to what syndications were. I had done some research on it, but I just didn't think that I could do it or that I was interested or whatever it was. And eventually we did find a group that told us about everything. And then we realized, we can definitely do that, as it turns out. And now I will say there's probably way more than enough masterminds out there. Yeah. So just as you do with an investment deal, an investment opportunity, make sure to do your due diligence. Yeah. Make sure to do your research. Does the group vision and values align with yours? What are the reviews that people who have gone through it say about them? All of those things are very important, because at the end of the day, they're the ones who are going to help you get on your first deal, probably.
Yeah. Okay, that's super cool. Yeah. You told us about a lot of great things, but what's the ugliest? What's the crazy stuff you've been through as a person who manages your property, as an investor, passive or active? What's some of the things that were very hard and then you have to overcome, or most people can bump into if they do this business, because not everything is rose and pink, right?
Yes, and I think the biggest part is really educate yourself, because unfortunately, just like with any business, there are people who will take advantage of you if you're new.
Of course.
And you have to make sure that you understand, okay, what is a typical split amongst operators, right? Like, for example, if we end up buying a building and it's 5 of us doing the different roles that I explained earlier, is it going to be 20% for each of us, or are there different ways? All of those things are things that it's important to know so that you're not taken advantage of. I think that, of course, you also have to make sure that the people that you do invest with, whether you're active or passive, know what they're doing. Because at the end of the day, it is real estate, it is an investment, it is subject to the market. Yeah. That being said, though, sometimes people make an average deal bad because they don't know what they're doing. Mm-hmm. It's like investing with a flipper, for example.
Of course.
Yeah, like recently a friend of mine put money into a flipping deal where the person did a gorgeous job with the house. But then it was the most beautiful house in the neighborhood. And we all know that when it's the most beautiful house on the street, it's harder to sell. Yeah. And then when it's harder to sell for a month, 2 months, 3 months, then it's even harder to sell. And so my friend ended up getting his money back, but it took a very long time. And so it's all those things where you want to know exactly what you're getting into. Yeah. Whether it's with your mastermind group that you want to join, whether it's as a passive investor, or whether it's as an active investor.
Yeah. It's very important to do your due diligence. And on this kind of deal business anyway, you make money at the beginning, just like for flippers. Yeah. You make money when you purchase it. Yeah. And then you have to calculate all the risk for doing the repair, the risk with contractor, the risk with resale, how the market will do. You need to make sure that you pay attention to what's going on the market. You looked at a year, 6 months, 3 months, and 2 years before that, and try to see if you can really recoup your money. That's the bare minimum you can do. Get your money back and then return that loan so you won't mess up your credit. So that's pretty much what you need, because the recovery sometimes is hard, after a few years, if you have to lose all the money or just have your credit to be hit like that. Yeah. I perfectly understand. And then what's some of the best surprise you encountered during this business?
So for me, it was really like the power of, again, doing it as a team. Like I ended up meeting so many different people. It's to the point where it showed me, oh my gosh, I may not even want to do just apartment complexes. Like, to give you a little bit of a backstory, my mom has been a nurse for 30 years. So when I was younger, when I was a student, one of my student jobs would be to work at a nursing home. And I've seen how some of our elders are treated. And that was like 15 years ago, right?
She's so young.
But it got me thinking, I want to do things different. I want to be able to give back to the community a different way. And I think that the multifamily, because it scales so quickly, it's an easy way to impact a bigger neighborhood.
Absolutely.
My first triplex, when I bought it, I said it looked like a horror house from the outside. And eventually we did a paint job. And the neighbors would come to us. It was a corner house. And the neighbors would come to us and say, thank you so much for repainting your house. Like, it makes the whole neighborhood look different. Yeah. Because before it looked scary, and now it looks so much nicer and cleaner. With my husband, we wanted to be able to do that at a larger scale. We wanted to be able to give back to specific communities. So, for example, I mentioned seniors. And we're going to, this year in 2025, start getting into assisted living facilities. So like syndicate those type of deals where we can like help people have access to better housing that's related to healthcare. So there's just so many things that you can do. And to me, that was the biggest piece. It was like, oh, wait, it's not just real estate. Yeah. It's really empowerment.
So I heard that based on what you just said, so I'm hearing apartment complexes where a regular person can come and rent. Mm-hmm. I heard that you can do healthcare facilities. What else could you do when you do syndication like that?
Yeah, so it turns out you can do a lot of things. I found out this year that you can even do a play. But to stay in the realm of real estate, storage units are a big one, or were a big one in 2023. One thing that we're interested in long term is also buying boutique hotels. Mm-hmm. Those are things that people love, especially when it's abroad, because now you have a good reason to go to the Caribbeans or wherever. And it might even bring you some like tax benefits, right? Like we all know that a great part of investing in real estate is that the tax code was made for real estate owners in the US. And so that's an avenue that you can take. Of course, you can do things, like I said, assisted living facility, but like in a very broad sense. For example, I have a connection who recently closed on a deal that's meant for like people getting out of jail basically and getting like reacclimated. Mm-hmm. So
like how we call that? Something house.
Yeah. I don't know.
Alex, do you know? You never been to jail, huh?
I'm a good child.
You're a good kid.
Don't kill me.
Oh, absolutely.
It's right on the tip
Yeah,
of
the
my
name is
tongue.
there. If you guys know how do you call these places, please drop it in the comment below because I forgot.
Yeah.
It's something. It's not a safe house.
Oh, it could be safe house.
No, it's not a
It
safe
sounds
house.
Transition house.
Oh,
You been to jail. That's why you know the name, huh?
been to jail.
I'm kidding.
This was the test. We passed if we don't know.
We'll get it. We'll get it.
That's okay.
Tip of my tongue.
It's gonna come back when it's gonna come back.
But there's definitely like other things that you can syndicate, like industrial complexes is a big thing. This morning I had a call with a potential operator about land. Of course, you can do smaller deals that are based on short-term rentals. And then another thing too is you can do commercial businesses. So our latest project is actually a new build that's going to be a strip mall. So not housing at all. Yeah.
Cool.
This is amazing. I'm so proud of you.
Thank
Look at
you.
you coming
Thank
all the way
you.
from France. We're in France.
I know, right? And very small town.
Yeah, in the country. She's from
In
the
the
I'm from
country.
Paris, but she's in the country. Like the
Yeah.
country that you cannot imagine. I'm kidding.
That is very true, actually. That's why I always tell people that's why I still love Paris. That's why I wasn't born there.
Yeah,
Like when I
because-
go, I'm still like, oh my gosh, it's beautiful.
And I'm like, oh my God, these people.
Yeah, yeah.
So tell us a little bit more about your side of the business. What exactly do you do? Which role do you play by working? First of all, how easy is it to work with your spouse?
Yeah, I was gonna get to that. I was gonna get to that.
It is great.
Blink twice. Blink twice.
Cross your fingers if you're in need of help. No, it's very interesting. So our company is called Married to Real Estate because real estate was always between us. Like that's the funny story, and where the name comes from is that I met my mother-in-law in Cancun on a girls trip, and then she was like, "Hey, I have a son." And it was one of those stories where it actually worked out. Yeah. And so my mother-in-law.
That's what we call where we come from in Congo. Arranged marriage, mariage arrangé.
Mariage arrangé.
The mom was in there, but the difference is instead of being the African mama, that was the American mama. She knew what she was doing.
She knew what she was doing.
Okay.
And so she's been in property management for the last 20 years. Before that, she was actually in, how do you call that? Like new developments. My sister-in-law is in property management. Obviously, I was. And my husband worked in it a little bit too. But from the very beginning that we met, that was always in our background. And then that very first triplex that we bought together. So the funny story is that I bought it. I was already looking for it. And then life just so happens that we moved in together. So we moved in, became landlords in January 2020. And then in March, the world ended. And we were both stuck in this house having to deal with it. And it was like, okay, if we can survive this, we can survive anything.
Oh, facts.
It is true.
Facts.
It is
Facts.
true. A lot of people
That's a
didn't
great
survive the
story.
pandemic.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And so
but-
that's why we're here.
But now tell me, what are the best city or state to invest in multifamily or syndication in general? What do you think? First of all, Houston is not really a big city for multifamily in general. You will find some, but not necessarily in a favorite subdivision area people like. So, but for anybody out there, if you're thinking about doing it, please do buy some land and build multifamily because it's very popular. Everybody asks for it, but there's not that much. The city really does not offer that much.
Yeah, especially within the loop. Now, I will say Texas in general is a great place to do it. Obviously, it's very business friendly. It's very landlord friendly. Other places that are very hot right now, or at least in 2024, were Ohio. Ohio, I think, had 3 cities in the top 10 of where to invest this past year. North Carolina is a huge one. People are loving Georgia. People are still really liking the Sun Belt and Texas and Florida in particular. Now, I will say the concern that most people have, or at least like investors who are pretty seasoned, with those 2 states is the insurance rates. As we know, there's been a lot of weather events recently that have, made insurance rates really skyrocket. And so that has put some deals in jeopardy because when you don't expect that your interest rates are going to rise and then your insurance is probably going to almost double, which is true story, happened to one of my properties where it increased by 50%.
Yeah, I know.
When you're talking 6 figures in the first place, 50% increase from one year to the next can be a lot. And so
And they like to drop people.
Yeah, exactly.
Insurance like to drop you. We fix your roof, now you're out.
Yeah.
We're done.
Yeah. And carriers have left, like entire carriers have left. I don't know about Texas, but for sure Florida, like saying like, hey, we just don't want to deal with that market anymore. So I still think those are great markets to invest in. Of course, for me, I'm here in Houston. I have my background in property management is leaning me towards asset management. So if I want to be able to manage the asset, it helps that I'm close, right? So my husband and I, we do have a preference for the Texas Triangle. But that being said, if
Could you break down the Texas Triangle for the population out there?
who's not in Texas? So we're in Houston, probably about 2 hours from us is San Antonio and Austin together, and then north of all of that is Dallas. So when you look at it on a map, it kind of looks like a crooked triangle, and so we love to look at opportunities within that space. Number one, because those cities are booming in terms of population migration. That's where everybody was moving and is still moving. And then also because there's not much else in Texas.
Stop it. Don't mess with Texas. There's a lot of things to do in Texas.
That's
Don't
right.
listen to her. Don't listen to this Frenchie.
No, there is. Is it outside the triangle? No, but of course I'm kidding. I know a lot of operators actually who do invest everywhere in Texas for the reason that I mentioned, like it's still booming. And then Utah is also very good. I think Provo, which I did not even know before getting into investing, but Provo, Utah was also like a place where opportunities were like left and right.
You don't have to have any kind of real estate license to do that, right?
Correct, you do not.
Okay, just make sure people.
As long as you abide by SEC rules.
Okay. Okay, this is good. We learned a lot. Did you learn something?
I learned a lot.
You about to give her a $50,000 check?
I'm over here just soaking it in.
Alex, did you hear that? You're about to give her a $50,000 check?
Yeah, let me just like shoot a few more videos.
Are you about to open a life insurance?
Let's put Alex into all of that and get your life insurance and get it together, my friend. This is your year.
But you're very informative,
This is
though.
your year.
This was a good podcast, good information.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for being here. We really learned a lot. So as we were saying earlier, we wanted to make sure that some of you can have some extra money in your pocket for 2025.
Yep.
Try to beat the inflation, right? If everything
right.
has to go up, why not your bank account and your money? So hopefully you learn a lot. Thank you so much for being here. Drop your comment. Make sure to follow us on all our social media. And then please make sure to subscribe. We need your subscription to keep growing.
Subscribe.
Yeah. And if there's any other subject that you would like to hear this year, do not hesitate to let us DM me, DM him. You can. Oh, I forgot to ask. How
me
people?
too, yeah.
How people can get hold of you if they would like more instruction from you, or maybe look at some of the deal that you have in place right now.
Absolutely. So I post almost every day. It's becoming a religion at this point on LinkedIn. Believe it or not, LinkedIn is a big place to find multifamily investors, whether they're active or passive. So my name is Linda Holt. If you find me on LinkedIn, you'll see everything that I talk about. And then our company is Married to Real Estate. So we go by M2RE for short. And on Facebook and Instagram is M2RETX for Texas.
Okay.
So feel free to DM me anywhere there or get in touch with Danielle and she'll know where to find me.
Okay. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you later.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
I came here in 2007, right in the middle of the crazy crisis. If your heart is not into it, do not do it. That's what I always tell them.
If you're making around 70K, look to be able to qualify for a home somewhere around 250, 275 in that bracket. As
Onions and juices and all that, and put some lemon and onion, and you make him drink it, right?
And Alex, all my listings need a video. All of them.